This is the story of a king whose very name sent shivers down the spines of his enemies, a warrior so fearless that they called him the Lionheart. Richard the First of England, one of the most legendary kings in history. From a young age, Richard was destined for greatness, but the path he chose was not one of peace or politics. It was one forged in battle, honor, and conquest. Born in 1157, Richard grew up in a family full of ambition and conflict. His father, King Henry II, was one of the most powerful rulers in Europe, while his mother, Eleanor of Aquitaine, was equally ambitious and fiercely independent. Richard had 4 brothers, and as you can imagine, this created plenty of competition. But unlike the others, Richard was not interested in ruling from a throne. He wanted to prove himself on the battlefield. Even as a teenager, Richard had a reputation for being a daredevil. He led armies before he was even crowned king, and his skill in battle earned him the nickname the Lionheart. He was a king who lived for war, and nothing stirred his soul more than the call to arms. But it was the Third Crusade that would define Richard's legacy. In 1189, when the Muslim leader Saladin recaptured Jerusalem, Christian Europe was outraged. Richard saw this as his chance to make his mark on the world. He gathered his forces and set out for the Holy Land, determined to reclaim the city. Along the way, he faced shipwrecks, betrayals, and battles that would have broken lesser men. One of Richard's most famous victories came during the Siege of Acre, where his leadership turned the tide of battle. His courage and tactical brilliance were unmatched, but it was his legendary rivalry with Saladin that made him a mythical figure. Although they never met in person, their battles have become the stuff of legend. 2 great warriors, locked in an epic struggle for control of the Holy Land. However, Richard was not only known for his bravery, he was also a man of honor. During the Crusade, when he fell ill, Saladin, his sworn enemy, sent him fruit and snow to help him recover. Their mutual respect transcended the battlefield, showing that even in war there can be chivalry. But Richard's story did not end in glory. On his way back to England after the Crusades, he was captured by the Duke of Austria and held hostage. For a king who had spent his life fighting, being a prisoner must have been unbearable. But his people loved him. England paid a king's ransom, a fortune to secure his release. Richard would rule England for only a few more years, but his legend had already been cemented. In 1299, during a siege in France, he was shot with a crossbow. Yet, as death approached, Richard showed his true character. He forgave the man who shot him and shortly after died of his wounds. Richard, the Lionheart story, is more than just a tale of war and conquest. It is a story of courage, loyalty, and an undying pursuit of glory. He became a symbol of chivalry and knighthood, a king whose heart belonged not to the crown, but to the battlefield. And though centuries have passed since his reign, his name still echoes through the ages.